What's up, Chengeer?
So, Marty,
How you doing?
everything is up. Everything is doing. I'm doing something constantly, and that's
Doing
fun.
something constantly. That's good.
Yeah.
So we're live on a new platform, Riverside. So exciting times. And so today wanted to chat with you about the the art and science of how to kind of make your hiring KPIs relevant. We'll give some time for folks to join. There is a chat function. I think if you just drop a message in on YouTube or you drop a message in on LinkedIn, you'll be able to send us any questions that you've got. This is kind of like an AMA style. For those of you joining, I'm Martin Hawk, founder of the People Group. Our mission is to economically empower as many people as possible. And Chengeer Lee is our guest today. Chengeer, why don't you give folks an intro?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Chengeer. I'm a principal at Right Hand. My mission is to economically empower myself. No, no, I'm joking.
Out there.
I don't. Yeah, but one of those micro missions. No, thank you for having me. Always happy to spend some time with Martin and just go into all these wild mazes and labyrinths of his mind, my minds, and everybody's participating.
Awesome. No, like I said, thanks for joining. For the folks dialing in, yeah, this is interactive. So just shoot us a quick message on LinkedIn or YouTube. Ask any questions you want. I will be asking Chengeer a million questions in between, but the goal is to really just have a sit down with you. So I guess context, and it's a cheeky subtitle or title to the session, but it was how to make your recruiting KPIs and hiring KPIs irrelevant. I think you know the angle that I'm coming from with that, but for context, yeah, like I said in the description, Chengeer joined the company I was working at, and had experience as a job developer, which is helping folks get jobs with companies, which is potentially harder than recruiting. What do you think, Chengeer?
It is a different ball game. Yeah, it's just a different beast.
It's a
Like
different
it's
beast.
challenging. It's like everything is challenging. It just comes with different sets of challenges. Yes.
And so you had that as like the recruitment hiring world experience, and decided to bring you on. And yeah, very quickly. At first, what was interesting in the hiring process, it was like high level of confidence. You know yourself very well, to the point that I was like, okay, like let's see if all these things that he says come true. And absolutely, within a couple months, you were blowing all of our metrics out of the water, making us have to like rethink the metrics and the targets and the goals that we had in place in terms of like how many people you'd be responsible for hiring per month. And like I said, like anywhere from like I think 6 to 8 hires per month was your average. And as a recruiter in your shoes, like a couple years before that, it was shocking. So that's the kind of place I want to dive into. I guess let's start with, did it seem surprising to you, did it seem surprising to you that it wasn't higher, or like what was your initial thoughts like when you're like, oh, you were noticing people on the team being like, holy, how how can you close so many candidates and whatnot? Like what was your initial impression there?
Um, I think it's always like a ceiling, right? We think that something is impossible when someone tells us so, but we don't know what we don't know. And if you have this kind of notion, like, hey, I have no idea what's impossible, then you just pushing the limits of yourself. So I didn't know what's impossible. I didn't. It was a first job in tech, first job in corporate Canada, first job in talent acquisition. So like, okay, I'm gonna see how far can I go, and I think that's definitely mentality. Speaking of which, I think we're gonna probably spend a lot of time just talking about that because people want to know like what's the secret sauce. Secret sauce is you. Like if you do a lot of stuff in the realm of inner work, this is what's gonna become an unlock for you. when it comes to your career, your money, your world class performance, and stuff like that. Um, just before we continue, just a quick logistical questions. I don't have the visibility, so you see the people, so you can create the questions, and
Yeah,
also the session
session
is recorded, right?
as sessions come in, this session is recorded. So
Cool.
yeah, by all
All
means.
right. Awesome. Yeah. So
Maybe for the folks listening and watching, like, so the like I'll set the stage. The average number of placements that a recruiter was making when we started working together was in the like 1.5 to 2.5 range per month, which, like, especially if you're working on tech roles, is acceptable, and especially if a lot of the roles are diverse, as opposed to like all you're doing is account executives all for the same team. And like, yeah, obviously the volume on that, because you're focused exclusively on one candidate profile, you're going to have higher numbers there. So that was the stage. And the like very first month, second month, there was this ramp up period that you and I talked about. By third or fourth month, it was just consistently four, five, six. Then you hit 12 1 month, and it was just like nothing. And so this was on I hired and worked with tons of amazing recruiters, and all of them are still amazing and great. They just never hit this bar in terms of volume. So you're this outlier. You're this, and I guess in for you to like be new to the profession, that's kind of an interesting angle to kind of go at. Did you? So is do you associate the fact that you didn't have any sort of real preconceived notions apart from like what people were saying was possible and not possible, and you said like, forget it, I'm just going to find out myself?
I think it's a multi-layered kind of and charged question, right? I'm always constantly thinking about this stuff, like what makes me me? Like, is it part nurture? Is it part nature? I can definitely speak to nurture part, and super blessed with nature, definitely, but with just the functioning and having healthy brain and healthy body and stuff like that. But there's a lot of work that's been done into nurture, and I think if we take a step back and go a little meta, it's not even about the KPIs alone. When I stepped into the conversation first into this context of the company we shared, right? I've asked all the peers, people who've been in the game 7, 15, 30 years, asking, okay, how long will it take me to become from an entry level talent partner to a senior talent partner? And they would say like probably 5 to 7 years. How long would it take me to become a principal talent partner? And like, well, probably like 10 to 12. This is when you accumulate truly the experience. I don't have this kind of time. Like, I don't have this kind of time, and like I've done this in 2 years, right? And the only thing that you do, and I think this is the model of management consulting. Why these young people are so like crushing it and so high functioning is because they do a lot of reps in a very short, compressed period of time, and that's my logic too. Learning equal time times intensity. I cannot do like the only way to compress timelines is to increase the intensity, and that's what I've been consistently doing. Every day, like I didn't work 9 to 5, like I plugged in 6 a.m. and I put 3 hours of work before everyone started their day, right? And people have a very unorthodox relationship, I think, with this kind of like, okay, what do I, if I put every day 10%, that by the end of the year I'm going to get 10% more. No, the relationship here is non-linear. So if you put 10% every day, by the end of the year, you're going to have 60, 80% higher output than everyone else. And obviously, if you put more than 10%, you can do like 200, 300 output, right? So, and that's been the mental model and the logic behind it. Just increase the intensity, maximum reps, so that you can compress timelines and learn faster than anyone, execute faster than anyone, progress faster than anyone, and then eventually, build a reputation. First year was building the reputation, so that reputation can, after that, work for you, right? Yeah, I've said a lot. You'll probably want to take another angle from here.
No, so it's, I think there is this element of that sounds like a lot of extra work, right? You're getting up crazy early, you're putting in the time, the effort. It wasn't something necessarily supernatural, like, oh, the 6 to 8 hours of time you put in, just like everybody else, you were just doing it more effectively. And I think there is something to double click on that. But you were also just consistently putting in 11, 12 hours a day into the role, and you were just working more than the average person would just in general. Can you talk a bit about how that is something that you do up front, and now, I mean, maybe that's your status quo and you're just always doing that and allowing that compounding effect to happen over time, but can you kind of like, you did a lot of extra work up front to catch up, to acclimatize. There's this element of the honeymoon phase of any organization, and then on top of that, there's this element of not wanting to like waste an opportunity. Like, hey, I've got this amazing opportunity, I'm going to make the best of it, I'm going to go above and beyond. Can you kind of talk about how maybe that's changed now that you've kind of broken out of your shell, you've proved you've got a reputation that precedes you now, like what does, can you talk a bit about how that's different, or are you still kind of following that approach?
It's evolving, but like, as a meta principle, it still stays the same, right? So to your question of how, I think yes, 100%. Like your foundation, whatever you've done with yourself previously, and your skill set definitely serves. Like for me, that's the nurture piece. It does serve me. I spent 10 years in academia, so science toolkit, research toolkit definitely helps me. Like when I come into the problem, I'm looking at it from a first principles perspective. That's what Elon Musk is all constantly preaching. How can I take whatever is in front of me and like disassemble it to completely atomic principles and understand like what's the exact mechanism? How do I engineer my own approach from there? So yeah, like I think I have a very unique approach to job descriptions, which is again assembled specifically from first principles. But um, breaking from the shell is an interesting analogy. I think you never really go away from it, like because I'm stepping very intentionally into new areas of discomfort again and again. So when I left in-house and I joined now agency, yeah, it was a very stressful period of time because I've imposed all this stress on me. Like, how do I become this new identity and new being? And it's probably like the game is 5-7x more challenging than in-house, right? That's why
Yeah,
all the volume and all the skills that I've done before. Right now, it's just a qualitative precision game. I've never done BD, so now that I need to do not that I need to, right? But that's the way I'm expanding my consciousness in this direction. Yeah, it's uncomfortable. It's new. It's a new skill, but same principles applies, right? Break it down to first principles, compress the timelines for intensity, learn faster than anyone, and through execution.
yeah. And that's, I mean, in terms of finding a balanced life, which you see often, it doesn't look, not doesn't look that way, but it's also the prescription that we've got in North American society is, you need to have balance. You can't be putting in 12 hours a week. Mind you, there's all these organizations like massive consulting firms, law firms, where it's just like 60, 70 hour weeks are the norm. And so if you impose that on yourself in an environment that doesn't require it, then you're going to reap the benefits of that effort and time. You talked a bit about something that was interesting in terms of, oftentimes you hear about recruiters going from the agency world to the internal side. You kind of did the reverse, and I had the benefit of starting on the agency side, which was, felt like, if we're going to do a baseball analogy, it felt like I was going up to bat and I was swinging 3, 4 bats at once. And then when I went internal, I was like, okay, I've got one bat. This is much lighter. So I've like mentally prepared myself to, but it feels like, or from my vantage point, knowing that you went from how you were operating to going into the agency world, and consultant world, there's this element of like, okay, so maybe you were holding 2 or 3 bats, but going into the agency world, it's like, okay, now you've got to hold 6 or 7 bats and you're swinging that. Like, how was, talk to me about that.
It's an adjustment period, definitely. Like, there was a ramp, there was adjustment, but that's exactly was my motivation, right? I wanted that kind of breadth where I have to constantly learn from different angles, learn different businesses, learn different founders, understand like how the whole world as a mechanism really operates as a system, and that's where I'm at, right? Like that's is it harder? Yes. Is it but it's still apply the same intensity. Obviously, I cannot give like all this attention to just one client, so there's a definitely prioritization going on. But that's the biggest fun because I have to work from like Silicon Valley AI startups up to 1 billion New York funds in I have some weird ones, right? Like I worked on a med spa client and I had to learn about the Botox and injection and plastic surgery and stuff like that. So that was fun. I worked on with a fire safety company, and it's interesting. Like there's some interesting new emerging roles that are coming through, like GTM engineer or narratives lead, like a chief storyteller kind of type. It's cool to be at the very frontier of how things are happening there.
So we have a question coming in here that says basically, if what are some things people look out for if they have been considering in going from external or internal recruiter for a company or a singular corporation and going like what you talked about this adjustment period, what are the things that folks would need to look out for or be prepared for, or things that caught you off guard?
You talk about you talked about a couple of things here, right? But you sort of placing yourself, injecting yourself in the environment where there's an external imposition of force on you that kind of forces you to shape, right? But also the so-called notion of balance. There is no notion of balance for me. Like you have to like I'm obsessive and I'm sick and in this, and this could be some form of disorder, right? I'm very adrenaline addicted, I guess, in that sense. That I'm working with my coach on that, and that was her feedback ideally. So that's a nature piece. Uh, like no one can teach you hunger. Like I am naturally like this, like hungry and obsessed. But the nurture piece is the self-awareness piece. You need to understand what is exactly you're driven by. My one of my biggest fears is fear of mediocrity, and it has always been like this, like for a very long time, like maybe like dozen of years, definitely. I'm just super scared to be a mediocre gray nobody, right? I have to shape myself, form myself into something exceptional. I don't know what your fear is, and I don't know like what if you're listening to this, but awareness of that set of drivers, internal drivers, is definitely gonna complement your natural hunger, right? Plus systematic approach, right? The question is, what are you optimizing for? If you're optimizing for balance, if you're optimizing for, I don't know, quality time with your cat and Netflix shows, like that's your jam.
Mhm.
Like if you're optimizing for like me, like again, I was very very late to all the money game because I've been investing into spiritual development, mind development, mental development, psychological development. So I arrived very late. At the age of 36, I had zero savings, zero investments,
Mm.
right? And so right now I'm just that's what I'm doing right now. I am freaking collapsing timeline, and
You're
I'm
making
doing
up
this.
for lost
I'm,
time.
I'm sorry.
You're making up for lost time, and you recognize that that requires extra time and effort. Basically, you can't.
In a way, yes, but like also like I'm realizing that like my financial results are elite by any stretch of like normal Canadian imagination, right? But they are because of that. Yes, there's sort of compensation. Plus, immigrant hunger. People come here. They're willing to prove something to themselves and to the parents, investments, and whatever, to the world, that we are worthy and we have our place. Now that I'm Canadian, like I have a different stance, right? But the it still doesn't go away. So, to answer your question, like what people need to know what the game is about, right? Like, regardless, is it an in-house recruitment? Is it agency recruitment? Is it solutions engineering? Is it a CTO? Whatever, it doesn't matter. Understand how the engine is working, understand how the system is working, and understand if that's essentially for you, right? You can do this through just your pure research, but right now with AI tooling, you can create any kind of thought experiments for yourself to truly understand and measure it, and like, hey, Is that ultimately the lifestyle and the career design that I want for myself?
To go a little bit further into that, so those the internal drivers and the motivations, make sure you have those as prerequisites. For the folks that understand recruitment, what's the biggest shift or change that you had to adapt to in from internal recruitment to agency recruitment? What's like the thing that gave you the most whiplash?
Several things. Number one is a mental model that I've absorbed from Zahara, my leader. She shared it very generously. But smooth, s- slow is smooth, and smooth is fast. Right? Like I'm naturally, again, 11 out of 10. That's my recruitment speed. Obviously, like when I coach people, I go back to zero because like people come to me with racing minds. But this kind of ability to switch gears, right? But that's what I'm learning. That's sometimes there's a lot of um, spiritual work that's involved, actually, that you need to learn how to slow down and let the world do its thing. There are certain things that you control. There are certain things that you put in motion. The way I explain it to my wife, I say like I dig the pool, I catch the fish, I put fish in the pool. But the hiring manager, the clients, like they're the fishermen. I don't know. I have no control when they're gonna come, how they're gonna fish, what kind of fish they're gonna take out. I only control the size of the pool and the quality of fish inside, right? So I know that you love metaphors of this nature. So, but and also I learned through my experience there are certain things you launch a lot of processes, but you feel like I've got this. This is already a done deal. They're gonna sign and deliver, and it's not happening. And on the other contrary, on the other side of a hand, on the other side of the business, is like this shit's not happening, and you lose all hope. And sometimes it's happening, and the deal is signed, and everyone's a happy family. Like you never can predict. So that would be one. Secondly, I definitely had to upskill, and there was a lot of there was quite a bit of coaching involved on the client interfacing because I've never had to deal with clients, and in that way. When you're in house, you're injected with the business. You're everybody's friend. You hired half of the business, so
Yeah,
obviously you're their
yeah.
friends. With clients, they're different. Some of them they want like white glove services. Someone is your best bro from the first minute. Some of them they want like a very white glove service. So it's been a learning curve, but ChatGPT is very helpful because right now, yeah, you don't need to be an extremely polished communicator. You can just yell at ChatGPT, and then it will
We'll
provide the best.
translate the
Yeah, it will translate into human language.
so the client expect what about the client expectations are I'm just curious about this because it's such an interesting jump because you see it typically in reverse, and so this feels like the harder mountain to climb.
Mm.
um and so the client expectations, what like are there any lessons that you've taken away in the last couple of years that you're like, I wish I knew this sooner, from transitioning from internal to external on the
Well,
client side specifically? Like I would as an example, like, oh, I used to wait a couple days to get back to clients, and now I understand that that's the single biggest factor in moving the dial with any client is just speed of response. I'm just throwing something relatively obvious out, but you get the sense.
I'm constantly journaling about different lessons that I've absorbed in this game. Number one, and it's going to be very counterintuitive and very interesting, but all these founders, all these executives, the people who are managing multi-million dollar budgets, building multi-million dollar businesses, you think they would be like superhumans, amazing at everything. But no, they are operating within their zone of genius, and it doesn't make them amazing necessarily with human craft, with recruitment, talent acquisition, things like this, right? And I'm just realizing more and more that all these cycles, everything that I've invested and put into myself, that truly elevated and became my craft. It took a lot of time and effort, and people they've been busy building something else, marketing and products and what have you, right? So that's going to be one. Number two, I wrote a post about this, right? It's just mind-boggling, like how rare, like the rarest skill is integrity, and this is why I'm so proud in a way also for like folks like from Kazakhstan, for example. They would come in and all my friends, they're freaking crushing it. Why? Because stuff we are born with and we got inculcated in our minds, it's just unacceptable. Like if you, I was born with the notion like you're a man of your words. You say something, you deliver. If you didn't say, like, it just for me, it's so strange that I need to explain it sometimes to people, and like, and it's so weird for me that 95% of corporate North America does not operate like this, probably,
Yeah.
right? It's just, and this is why you don't need to be necessarily the most intelligent person. You can just outwork everyone, and you can just out execute your competition if you just have right principles, right integrity, right character, right work ethic, right? This would be two. I can give more.
No, I mean, it feels, first off, we've gone 25 minutes without talking too much about AI. I know you were foreshadowing to, like, talking to ChatGPT and yelling at ChatGPT so that ChatGPT can give you something nice to say to your clients, or just as a good venting mechanism, or even just like the positioning of a message. But from the ultimately, the thing I noticed was you, as a recruiter, you are one of the most efficient, effective recruiters. We've talked a lot about the, I guess, intrinsic values and principles and soft skills behind that. That's what most of this conversation's been about so far. And for folks that are listening, by all means, just drop a comment in YouTube or drop a comment in on LinkedIn, and I'll take a look at it in a second and make sure to ask them. Thanks so much for the questions so far. We've talked a lot about sort of like the soft side. What are like the digital tools that aren't necessarily obvious, or even just the obvious ones? Like, let's talk a bit about your tech stack, how you're using it, how you think you're using it differently. What's front and center for you? Like, what do you feel is making you have an edge in comparison to others that might not be using those tools?
Totally. That's probably going to be a meaty part of conversation, but 100%, right? Like AI is just like, if you know how to use it, it's going to 10x your efficiency and output, right? And
Mhm.
I am taking everything I can take at this point. Whenever there's a new client, I'm going to create the Claude project. I'm going to go to Perplexity and to do full research. So asking, okay, give me the team, give me the investor profile, give me the full SWOT analysis of the business. And the beauty of Perplexity is you can download a bunch of PDF files and just drop them into the project knowledge. I would do a kickoff call, transcript, full analysis, intelligence analysis, and my project knowledge is growing. So over time, like once I've created it for the client, it's an intelligence that's growing as our relationship with the client is growing. It knows more and more over time, right?
So can I stop
And
you there really quickly?
Yeah,
Already, you've talked about using two different models in two different ways. So Perplexity is the thing that does the research at a high level on the company and the company's investors. You save that, incorporate it into a Claude um,
projects.
a Claude project. So it's like a folder effectively, and like this folder. And have you tested against other models for this system in order to get to, like, this is the recipe of AI tools that you prefer to accomplish this? Or is this
Mhm.
like, yeah, help us understand maybe some of like the origin of this approach?
100%, you have to play around with it. I think this is one of the largest misconception when people like really pigeonhole themselves only into one solution, is that LLMs are all substituting each other. They're not. Like each LLM is perfected for a particular type of job, so you ultimately need to leverage all of them, right?
Yeah.
So Perplexity is best for research, right? And Claude is best for deep sentiment analysis and writing. ChatGPT is best and known for speed and just like it's your everyday brain, second brain and driver. Grok is best because it's integrated with Twitter on the back end, so it's best for sentiment analysis or what's going on real time in social media. Gemini is obviously right now expanding very quickly. You can do like crazy stuff with AI image generation, right, and stuff like that. So largest context window by far. So these are all like different tool sets and tool chains, right? Like, and you can leverage them. So
And the
yeah.
one that you've settled on is the Claude Perplexity. Perplexity for research. So would you say, would you throw, say, a candidate profile on from LinkedIn to Perplexity to say, kind of assess this person at a high level and then throw them into the project? Like, let's say you did that with 10 candidates. I'm just making something up. Maybe like, can you get into the granularity that I'm kind of referring to?
Totally. That's the beauty of it. Another stuff that I love about Perplexity is that you can plug in, like, just copy paste the link, and it will actually go into the link and it'll do research for you on the. So you can drop the website of a client, and it will extract all the data from there primarily, but then from other sources, cross linking, right? You can drop the LinkedIn profile of a person and say, like, I want to know everything about them. So it will do the sentiment analysis on the LinkedIn profile itself, but also like pull some other stuff, maybe in press, on a particular CEO or a founder. And that's what I do. You download it, you absorb all this intelligence, and you drop it into you accumulate it within the Claude project.
Have you seen, so immediately there's so many possibilities. Do you use projects? Well, I don't know if there's subcategories, but like, for example, if you've been working with a client for 2 years and you've uploaded 300 documents, imagine the like model becomes potentially overwhelmed and you're missing out on things. Or have you seen a limitation of like, well, after a certain period of time, I will sunset a project and then start a new one with like maybe a summary from the previous one as the core document? Have you seen that sort of, because obviously you've seen hallucinations. I've done my fair share of vibe coding. When the code base gets too big, things start to break and go a little bit sideways. What have you seen in terms of limitations so far?
Yeah, 100%. You have to do certain data hygiene. So something that's like in your initial assumptions and initial information, it becomes ultimately obsolete, right? Especially with the stuff that we do, right? Its hiring process is a very living process, right? And my documents, for example, I call it a candidate portal. That's the substitute for a job description, which is practically it's an executive package that contains all the intelligence that I can share with the candidate about everything: role, opportunity, founder, business, etc. And it's a living document. After even my candidate will go on the interview, and I don't know what with whatever degree of success, but I will debrief with the candidate. I will debrief with the business, and based on this intelligence, I will create iteration on. So candidate portal is improving, and yeah, same stuff with your AI system, right? Old data, you have to trash it, and yeah, you have to do compression as well, so that the model doesn't hallucinate. So you can create compression artifacts, and you use them instead.
Even just everything that you're saying right now makes me feel like the world. And I said that we were doing a dinner in Vancouver with our partners that had Ashby, and I was talking to some of the recruiters, and it's a completely night and day from like literally 3.5 years ago, 4 years ago, when none of the sentences you said were even like ideas or thoughts, or maybe they felt like possibilities at the time. Just a random observation of how fast I guess it's changing. Um, is there anything else in sort of your approach or your tech stack or your AI tech stack that you think's worth sharing or talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. So number one, like, this is a massive game changer, whisper flow, right? So you're probably familiar with that.
Yeah.
You're the one who taught me text expander. Have you known that, like, you can actually text expand with whisper flow?
Yep.
So that's
I sent their founder a message about him, like, can you just make text expander in Whisperflow? That would be great. Thanks. And
and
they're
it
like,
just
yeah, we're
appeared.
looking at this. They've got a version of it. I don't know that I love its execution yet, but it's pretty cool.
Wait for it. Like, I mean,
It'll happen.
their ambition is to build a personal assistant. Like, I'm so looking forward to this stuff. Like, but yeah, Whisperflow, huge unlock when it comes to writing, content creation, just like dumping your thoughts, right, and stuff like that. Number two, like, we are obviously using like tools like MetaView. I use different note takers, but Granola is freaking awesome. So using that one,
It always
and
takes cake. Yeah.
Yeah, and using like very cool, like even like past weekends, I was playing around with templates that you can create a template
Mm.
and you can model it in a way so that it's already submission ready. So I design it in a way so that I don't need to do any kind of manipulation after that. Granola spits me out the data based on transcript in my notes that's already ready to share with the client, like client facing polished documents. Number three, software that I've recently found really cool, like probably several months ago. It's called MEM AI, MEM AI, and it's practically like your notebook, right? But that doesn't forget anything. So AI is integrated. You can search, and it searches based on the sentiment analysis. So you don't need to do anything. You don't need to do any kind of tagging. I think like Notion is already doing this too. So there's an AI that's, but Notion historically, I think its architecture is built with the premise that it needs to be certain structured data. So it's definitely cool for building different kind of structured projects. MemAI can be just a brain dump. So what I do after every screen, not after every screen, some screens they don't deserve to be remembered, but some screens they're like some people you want to remember, and you're
Yeah.
like, hey, who was this candidate I talked to like freaking 7 months ago, and they're so awesome, but they live in Chicago, and that's all I remember about them,
Yeah.
right? And yeah, and Meme I can retrieve that for you if you, yeah, of course, keep your records properly, but
Mhm.
that's all you do, right? Like you can use Granola, you can use MetaView, but just copy paste that whole thing into Mem, and you will never forget about it.
So if so, note takers granola, you've messed around, you've used MetaView, and MetaView's got. I think MetaView's great for companies. Um, Granola probably more for the independent or the smaller business kind of deal. In terms of, so there's a lot, like there's a big tech stack um, above and beyond sort of your traditional, like I have an ATS and I use the ATS and that's good. And I use LinkedIn in my ATS and that's the tech stack. Maybe previously like an email hunter or finder, that sort of thing. I feel like I'm
Mm.
repeating myself now, but that's kind of, so the stack has become much larger. And so there's the, like, let's just assume a conversation effectively for recruiters is an artifact. You have a mechanism where it's like, okay, I've had this conversation, it's in Granola, and it automatically goes to mem.ai or mem AI, and then it automatically goes to all these other places to do the things. Or is that the work you're doing now, is like orchestrating between, like, okay, had the conversation, next step do this, next step do this, next step do this, like at what level of automation are you embracing? And if you are, why? If you're not, why not?
It's like milliseconds for me, so I don't really do automation. I play with Zapier, so I've
Mm.
built these automations before. So previously, I had yeah, like MetaView to Mem AI integration, which is fine. It's cool, like it's working in the back end, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm also, I guess, extremely organized with my stuff, so I know what is where do I leave what. Um, yeah, my workflow could be more automated. I still couldn't find a proper tool for like inbox triaging, which I would want. But I know there are startups in this space, but I also think that Google gonna release something soon. And it's gonna kill everyone. So
You think so?
it's already been hinted. Yes, I think Google's gonna crush it.
Fix Gmail, and it's kind
Yeah.
of like a lost, like it is a, not a space race, but everybody's inbox zero is the thing to choose for, to shoot for, and Google should, in theory, like it doesn't make sense. It's never made sense to me that there are competitors to Gmail in the sense, like with all the data, all the money, all the talent that they have access to, and Gmail is still this sort of like lackluster thing that's stuck and competing with Hotmail kind of deal. No offense to the Hotmail users out there, but um
Gemini is a beast, but we're all creatures of habits, right? I just like
switching.
so got used to Gmail, so it's just a quick workflow.
Yeah, that's fair. um Is there any, so, and this was the title of the AMA, was how to make your hiring KPIs kind of irrelevant. And that was more of like a cheeky nod to the fact that, like, your targets were like 2 or 3 hires a month, and you ended up making them legitimately irrelevant. It was a weird. It was, in the mindset of like sort of like a leader. You're like, okay, well, this person's crushing it, fantastic. Like, it didn't make sense to like raise the goals for you, but not everyone else. Um, with all of that in mind, what do you think internal recruiters should have as their act, like, let's take some hot takes on like what are the actual important KPIs versus what are the KPIs that are distracting that people fall into sort of traps with, from your perspective on the internal, and then we can move to the external recruiter side.
I don't know. Probably again, I'm gonna go meta because I don't think about it like this, right? And like you'll need to abstract yourself first. Like career design is a massive layer within life design. You need to understand what are your KPIs within your life design first. What are you optimizing for? And everyone is optimizing. I hope so, right? Like if money is important, right? So if money is important for you, then I think like most people don't think about it enough. Like what is exactly enough for me? Like what is the net worth? What is the target net worth for my life? From there, what is my FU money, right? Or I would call it, if you don't like the FU words, you can use work optional. When can I exit the system and like, I don't know, move somewhere, like maybe like minimal acceptable lifestyle, but exit the system entirely, right? For example. Or like maybe I don't want to exit the system, right? But like I don't need to work anywhere. I don't need to take orders from anyone. And that's what I'm optimizing for. My number one KPI is sovereignty, it's autonomy, right? Like it's the and,
Optionality.
and
um
optionality, it's the same stuff. Like we are such big friends because we live by the same philosophy. Like we want to build cool shit with cool people, and we don't want to take orders from anyone. I want to That's ultimate, right? That's ultimate definition of freedom. I want to do whatever I want with whomever I want, whenever I want, on
yeah.
my own terms, on my own time, in my own geo of choice. Those are KPIs. And then you take this set of KPIs and you transform them into career. Okay, like for the career, what do I need to do? Like, how do I need to think about this? Well, company is a vehicle. Like that's your life vision. The company essentially needs to, as a vehicle, needs to propel you towards that. And if it doesn't do that, that you probably need to exit the vehicle and find another one. So, and that's what I've been doing with this company, right? I came an immigrant in 2019. My first salary was 50 grand. When I joined Casefer, I negotiated 5K more. I was like so proud of myself. 55, holy shit! Like go for it, right? Within 6 months, it was promotion to 65. Within the next 6 months, it was promotion to 95. Within the next years was promotion to 115, and then the next promotion was 119, and that's when I knew you
Yeah,
hit your ceiling.
you hit the corporate ceiling of
Yeah,
what.
like you're done. Like there's nothing more that you can attain here, and that's when it's time to graduate. And so, which I did, and right now I'm living happy life with right hands, where there is no ceiling. Like you eat what you kill, and the more you kill, the more you eat. So, and that's what I have been massively optimizing for. The previous chapter was optimizing for compounding skill. Right
No.
now, that the skill is compounded, right? Like yes, you're still compounding the skill, but you're optimizing for that. So um
Yeah, they don't.
i'll
They
i'll
don't.
finish i'll finish the thoughts because again I feel like I'm not answering your question, right?
No,
But
no, no. You're answering the question in a way that, like, hey, this actually makes sense. And I like the vehicle analogy because I I can use it for this explicit purpose. Is like, I think most people, and correct me if you have a different analogy here. Most people see the vehicle as the destination. So you're saying, hey, what am I looking for? Why am I doing all of this? What am I looking for? And you're looking for the freedom, optionality, and the vehicle to get that is the job. Whereas at some point, and I think this is intentional to a certain extent, no, the vehicle is misrepresented, and people don't see the thing as a vehicle. They see it as the destination, as the goal. Especially with like a lot of the larger organizations, right? Like it becomes a part of your persona, it becomes who you are. And then when you talk to those folks, and there's big restructures at large organizations that have incredible cultures, and like have done so much for individuals, but they feel like they've lost this like identity aspect of themselves because this vehicle has been misrepresented. Maybe you can speak to that a bit.
And that's why I said what I said before. Like your spiritual work, your inner work, that's exactly the foundation for everything else, because you have to eventually come down to this understanding and realization that you're not the ego, you're not the identity, and only that will enable you to work with your identity. You're not the thoughts, you're not the mind. And then it enables you to work with your identity and the mind, because precisely to your point, this is exactly what's happening to people, right? Like when like I have my full identity into something that is transient and ultimately can transform, right? Like I think that I'm John Doe, I'm a software engineer. I'm Jane Doe, I'm a nurse, right? Like, yeah, but is that true, or is it just a story that you felt to believe in, right? But not to go deeply philosophical, I still want to stay a little bit at the practical level. Again, like I know folks who and I'm thinking about specific person when I think about this archetype. Like they come in, they clock in at 9, they leave at 5, and they say like they pay me $85,000. That's exactly the amount of money they're buying my time. And that's for me short-sighted, finite, transactional thinking. Because yes, in a way, they're buying your time. In a way, you have a wage. But again, like how are you thinking further? If I thought further, like if I thought like this, if I had this mental framing, I would have never invested more time into building this. But I'm not thinking months, I'm not thinking years, I'm thinking infinite game. I'm thinking 10, 20, 30 years. What am I shaping this Chengeer guy into? And in order to do that, I need to grind right now to build my reputation and to become undeniable, and to make my craft and my skill at a level that's never been seen before, so that everybody knows, like, okay, there are recruiters, there's top 5%, there's top 1%, there's one and only Chengeer Lee, right? That he's a niche of one. He built something for himself. He's like operating at the talent architect, like I call it executive talent systems level, right? So it's just it's a different game philosophically,
Mhm.
and we're all different. Maybe it is your destiny if you explain it to yourself like this. If you say that that's your story, to be 9 to 5 at 85K, that's the story of your life. You're going to manifest exactly this. I'm probably trying to manifest something else.
Fair. And oftentimes there's this level of, yeah, people, it's almost why you see people coming out of those moments of realization of like, oh, my identity was so tied up with who what I did professionally, and when that comes to a critical moment, they have to take time and they have to find themselves, so to speak, and kind of like get back in touch.
I will
um
tell you probably like about, again, a little bit meta approach. Like most people, they live in a reactive way. Like I'm here right now in the present moment, 2025. I'm gonna live my life forward. This like stuff happens, I'm gonna react. Stuff happens, I'm gonna react. And there is a certain fairness to this approach, but I always use the mental model of inversion. Like, what's the final destination? We all know what's the final destination. We're gonna be fucking dead. That's the final destination, right? And if you're lucky, it's average time lifespan is what, 75 years. So how do I, hopefully and ideally more, like I would want to live until like 80, 90, but you're old, you're sitting in the park looking at the last sunset. What matters? If you understand this as a destination point, how do I then reverse engineer all my life up until now and break it into different phases of life development? And in each phase, I would be a particular archetype. When I'm 90, when I'm like an old fart, I want to do nothing. I want to be like I don't even want to interact with people. I just want to prepare for death, maybe, and to spend time with loved ones, and maybe my quiet reflections, meditations of Marcus Aurelius, maybe. When I'm like in 70, 80, I want to be this wise sage, and I want to share my wisdom accumulated in the lifetime. Maybe like the operationally, it's going to be like 60s to 70s, right? Up until 60s, I might work, which makes me, I'm 37 right now. I have about 30 years of work in me. What do I do with these 30 years?
yeah.
How do I like what kind of work I want to produce? I don't want to hustle all the time. I don't want to grind all the time. Yeah, like probably it's going to be fair until a certain age, but at a certain point, you'll need to apply leverage. And hopefully, you're going to have the intelligence and wisdom to do so, right? And you can do this kind of thought process again with AI. This is the beauty of this tool, is that you can dump all of that stuff. You can model the whole thing forward. You can reverse engineer the whole thing backwards. And that falls down into daily system then. What do I do every day in order to progress towards that vision?
Not the answer people were expecting, I'm sure. But that is an answer that is representative of someone who has been able to prove effectively that they're an outlier in the things that they do. So this is a nice window into the mind of a person that operates at the highest of levels. Um,
Thank you.
what what are you? I mean, you've given us kind of like what your long term inversed pyramid path looks like. What are you excited about in the short term? What's catching your attention right now?
I think I wrote about this, right? But right now I feel like I'm truly entering the building phase of life, and this is what I've heard a lot before from like people who are in their and enter their 40s and like, hey, life starts at 40, and until then you only do your research. I think there is a certain smart point about that. But yeah, I think this is a beautiful age to be in. This is definitely your prime, your peak. You're not stupid anymore, but you still have energy. So yeah, like I'm living my best life and just enjoying it. And at the end of the day, again, like if you step back and go a little meta, none of this shit matters. So like like we're all dead already. You can build, you can attain your millions. Like everyone who made millions, they would tell you there's no satisfaction in the material stuff, and for sure they know. That's why Buddhists say before awakening, chop wood, carry water. Right after awakening, chop wood, carry water. That's for me the primary objective.
Come again
Awaking
with
the
that one? Help me understand that. I've heard it a couple times. Chop wood carrot, but
yeah, like people say like, hey, like, well, okay, like I'm gonna awaken myself spiritually, right? And then what? I'm gonna shave my head, join the Buddhists, sit in the cave, like pray and like all that stuff and meditate all the time. No, not necessarily. Like awakening is for the sake of awakening, like so that you can come back into this world and not be an NPC and look through the see through the illusion of the external matrix and through the illusion of your own mind, and ultimately that will enable you to be a free player, so that you and again true awakening is like you understand there is no free player. No one who makes the choice. There's no one to control. There's no controller itself is an illusion. No one who makes the decisions. And all of this is just a bunch of nonsense. It's a one big cosmic joke. So chill the fuck out and enjoy the ride called life.
well, if folks listening have questions at this point, existential or talent acquisition, um, feel free to drop in a comment. But I think this is a good place to kind of wind things down. Chengeer, always a pleasure chatting with you. Yeah, it's a, really cool to see how a where you've come, where you've arrived at, how quickly you've arrived there, but also how you can weave the existential thinking into the day to day stuff. So I don't see too many questions coming in, which is fine. I had my share of any final thoughts, or are we good to tap out here?
There is an arrival process, but there's nowhere to arrive. You're always here, always now, always is. So, yeah, just I wish more people just realize that you can live this life without noise as an effortless being, without the burden of the stories of the past and an expectation of the future, without fears and hopes and yeah, your own perceptual constipations. But um, always a pleasure to be here. Like I'm loving creating those moments with you specifically because I know it's going to be like one of those breadcrumbs of our stories we're going to be rewatching maybe when we are old farts smoking a joint somewhere in Jamaica.
Yeah.
Like, hey, remember 2025? And I want to
Pristine.
create more. Yeah, I want to create more of those, and super excited and love being a witness to your evolution and you becoming more and more of a force in this world of people who think they are HR professionals.
None of it matters apparently, Chingier. So now I have to.
Nothing matters. That's why everything matters.
There
Every
you
single
go.
moment.
Yeah. Well, right back at you, good sir. Thanks so much. Thanks so much to the folks listening. And yeah, we've got some interesting episodes coming up. We'll be chatting with the founder of Flash Food in a couple weeks. So we'll be dropping that. He's started a new company called MedWallet.ai. He's building a tool that most Canadians wish they had. So that's kind of exciting. And beyond that, we'll have in the new year we'll have a senior person from a massive company, and they're going to share all the secrets of. It'll be really interesting to see if they sign off in the same way as they say. Oh, at the end of the day, none of this really matters. It's all smoke and mirrors. But maybe I'll ask them that question. But thanks again for showing up, everybody, and we'll see you next time.